the issue is realizable pay can mean many different things to many different people. And let me just talk about how this works. If you think about restricted shares, you think about you have 1,000 restricted shares. It was $10 at grant date. It might be $20 3 years later at vesting. So is the realizable pay or the pay definition for looking at pay performance $10,000 or $20,000? Most people agree now it's $20,000. If you look at performance shares, you've got two elements there, not only the stock price movement, but how many shares get earned. And so most people are agreeing now that we have to take the price of the shares when they are actually earned and the number of shares that are earned. So that's another piece of the equation. And then the third piece has to do with stock options, which of course are always the trickiest piece of the equation, whether you're dealing with target pay or realizable pay. But stock options can be valued on the basis of Black-Scholes, that's grant date value, but they also, after performance has happened, they have an embedded value at the time of vesting, they have an actual value at the time of exercise, and they have a value, another Black-Scholes value, at the time of vesting. And so the question is, well, which one do we use and how do investors look at that? We produce performance alignment reports, we call them PARs, and really look at pay and performance alignment, the definition that we think makes the pay elements most comparable, makes companies most comparable based on whatever, whether they're using options or not. Makes time horizons most comparable, so I look at it 1 year to the next. How do I make sure I've adjusted for time horizon? Is what we call performance adjusted comp, and that means you look at the in the money or out of the money Black-Scholes value of the option at the time of vesting. Interestingly, ISS has picked this up for the qualitative model. They've got a quantitative model, but for the large cap companies, if you fail the quantitative test, they'll look at it on a qualitative basis, and they're looking at realizable pay with the performance embedded in the pay definitions and in the equity in particular. So, we think you'll get a better read from what ISS is going to think as well if you're looking at the definition of realizable pay with the grant dates after the performance has happened, after the stock price is in there, after you know the number of shares that are earned, which, by the way, is a sleuthing exercise in the proxy. We do a lot of work to go through that and figure that out for our alignment reports. And the Black-Scholes value of the options after the vesting periods happened. Most investors have told us that, yes, they need a standard definition. They need to be able to compare companies one to another. They need to be able to compare companies, whether they grant options or not on how they're paying and whether they're paying for performance. So they need some standardization here so they understand it, and we agree with that. That doesn't preclude companies from offering up yet other ways to look at it, and we think companies could and can and should tell their stories, but as a supplement to the standard definition. So that's kind of where we land on that, and it's a very important topic that is emerging here as we move forward into and out of this proxy season.